here's something strange. In late April, as American trade negotiators were boarding planes for Geneva, preparing what the White House would later call a major breakthrough with China, President Xi Jinping was doing something else entirely. He was in Moscow, sitting across from Vladimir Putin, signing agreements, smiling for cameras. He was not in a hurry. He has not been in a hurry for months. And that, it turns out, tells you almost everything you need to know about where this is actually going. Notice that the hurry, or rather, the absence of it. Every trade negotiation has a rhythm. One side wants something now. The other side wants something eventually. The side that needs it now almost always loses. And right now, the side that needs it now is us. Consider what the American economy is carrying at this particular moment. Tariff whiplash that has already rattled supply chains, a Federal Reserve threading a needle between inflation and slowdown, a consumer confidence index that has been quietly deteriorating for 2 consecutive quarters, and a president whose domestic political clock is not infinite. Xi Jinping's domestic political clock, by contrast, is as close to infinite as any leader in the modern world possesses. He is not up for re-election. He is not facing midterms. He answers to no one who will vote him out in 18 months. That asymmetry, the gap between Trump's timeline and Xi's timeline, is not a footnote to this story. It is the story. So who is Xi Jinping in this moment, and how did we get here? This requires a little history, and I promise it matters. Xi came to power in 2012 on a mandate that was, at its core, a promise to restore Chinese greatness on the world stage to end what Beijing calls the century of humiliation, that long stretch from the Opium Wars through the 20th century, during which China was carved up, occupied, and condescended to by Western powers. Every major foreign policy calculation ZSI has made since then runs through that lens. When he looks at Donald Trump, he does not see a deal maker. He sees an episode, a chapter in a much longer book that China intends to write. The Belt and Road Initiative, the military buildup in the South China Sea, the patient cultivation of the global South, these are not reactions to Trump. They predate Trump. They will outlast Trump. What Trump sees as a negotiation, Xi example, experiences as a minor weather event in a decades-long project. Here's what we know about the specific architecture of XYZ current posture. In the months since the latest round of tariffs escalated, Beijing has been executing a strategy that looks from the outside like waiting. It is not waiting. It is building. China has quietly accelerated trade agreements with Southeast Asian partners through ASEAN frameworks. It has deepened its energy import relationships with Russia and Iran, creating an alternative supply chain that runs largely outside of dollar-denominated systems. It has continued without particular fanfare its strategic stockpiling of rare earth materials, the same materials without which American semiconductor manufacturing, EV battery production, and defense electronics cannot function. These are not panic moves. They are the moves of a government that believes time is on its side. And here is why Beijing may be correct about that. Follow this thread carefully, because this is where it gets complicated in ways that the daily headlines tend to flatten. Iran. The American military engagement in Iran, however it is characterized, whatever phase it is in, has done so
Mething to the geopolitical map that no trade negotiator in Geneva fully priced in.
It has open fronts, multiple simultaneous fronts. It has absorbed American diplomatic bandwidth. It has sent energy markets into a state of anxiety that oil importing nations across Asia are watching with acute attention. It has handed China, which has been carefully developing its role as a neutral mediator and responsible great power, a ready-made stage. Every week the Iran situation consumes American attention and resources is a week in which Beijing can present itself, in contrast, as stable, predictable, not starting wars. That contrast matters enormously in Beijing's competition for influence with the global South, with ASEAN, with countries in Africa and Latin America that are watching both great powers and making their own calculations. And there is a domestic American dimension here that should concern anyone thinking seriously about the leverage question. The internal pressures on the Trump administration, the political turbulence, the competing factions, the very human temptation to want a win, a visible win, a deal they can put on a podium, these pressures are legible to Beijing. CH. INA has analysts. It has historians. It has people whose full-time job is to understand American political psychology. They understand that an American president facing noise on multiple fronts has a structural incentive to close something, to bank a diplomatic win. And they understand that this incentive can be used. This is the moment when everything clicks, and I want to say it plainly. Xi Jinping does not need a deal with Trump. Not now. Not on Trump's terms. Not before the American political pressure peaks. What Xi has and what he has been methodically assembling for months is the capacity to offer Trump the appearance of a deal when the moment is maximally advantageous to Beijing. A partial agreement, a photo opportunity, a pause that looks like progress and buys China another 2 years of runway while its alternative trade architecture matures, while its rare earth leverage consolidates, while the dollar-based system continues to face the slow but real erosion that Beijing has been engineering through the BRICS payment frameworks. China does not need to win this negotiation. It needs to not lose it on bad terms. And the way you avoid losing on bad terms is by making other side feel like they won. Here's the part that should concern all of us. The United States is entering this negotiation carrying something it has not fully accounted for: the compounding cost of simultaneous crises. Iran is costing money and attention. Energy prices are transmitting through the American economy in ways that will take quarters, not weeks, to fully register. The political bandwidth required to manage domestic unrest strikes, protests, the fraying edges of institutional trust is bandwidth that is not being spent on coherent long-term China strategy. Great powers lose not because they are outfought, but because they are outpaced, because the other side was running a longer game all along. Two questions remain, and they are not small ones. The first, what does Xi actually want from this moment, and how far is he willing to let tensions escalate before he decides the risks of a genuine decoupling outweigh the benefits of strategic patience? China's own economy is not without vulnerabilities. Youth unemployment, a property sector that has not fully digested its earlier crisis, export dependency on markets that are right now actively diversifying away from China. Sea goods. Xi is buying time, but even his clock has limits. The second question, is anyone in the American government gaming this out beyond the next quarterly trade figure? Is there a long game strategist in the room who understands that the negotiation happening right now is not about tariffs? It is about who sets the terms of the next decade. Because here's what Xi Jinping understands that the current moment obscures. A deal made under American duress, made because a president needed a win before midterms, made while Iran burns and energy prices climb and domestic attention fractures, that deal will not hold. And when it doesn't hold, China will have spent nothing, conceded nothing, and bought itself exactly the time it needed. The most dangerous negotiator in the room is the one who already knows what you need.